I've watched over 100 hours of YouTube doctors to try to understand why is it that keto solves not only diabetes and weight issues, but so many other health problems that we live in our modern society. And what I figured out was that it comes back to the central core issue, which is insulin resistance.
Type 2 diabetes is a manifestation of insulin resistance at the level of the liver. Polycystic ovarian syndrome is a manifestation of insulin resistance at the ovary. Cardiovascular disease is a manifestation of insulin resistance at the heart. Alzheimer's disease, we are learning, is a manifestation of insulin resistance in the brain. It's regiospecific, and it is because of that that we end up with these different manifestations.
When we are insulin resistant, we store sugar away as fat. However, when we are overweight, we are insulin resistant. So, when we are losing weight on a keto diet, but we're still overweight, then the sugar that we are eating in our diet, it still has an impact on our storage of sugar, right? Even though we are on a weight loss trajectory, we're still insulin resistant, and therefore problems are still happening.
But when we start eating a lot of carbohydrates, and we start eating many times a day, and we start eating snacks in between, now we have more carbohydrate. The cell is jam-packed with glucose, and when the cell can't use that glucose, it starts converting it into fat, and it starts storing inside the cell first as fat, and then it starts spilling over. And then outside the cell, we still have tons and tons of glucose because we keep eating carbohydrates. But remember, in the bloodstream, it's toxic. The brain can't handle that much glucose, so that's an emergency. So the more glucose we have, the more insulin is needed to push, to open up the door for that glucose to get into the cell. But the cell is already full, and this is where the cell becomes insulin resistant.
We mistakenly believe that as soon as we start to lose weight, we've solved our health problems. And there were two things that happened to me that helped me to understand and really drive home that message for me. The first one was that after months of eating well, eating properly, and my hip not hurting me, my weight on the downward trajectory, after months, I think I was like more than 40 pounds down. I was eating consistently 20 grams of carbs or less. My damn hip pain returned. And I'm like, what the heck? Because I was eating 20 grams of carbs. I wasn't going over. And I verified, I checked, I logged 20 grams, 20 grams, 20 grams. Well, it turned out that my number wasn't 20 grams of carbs. My insulin resistance was showing itself again. 20 grams of carbs a day for me was still too much. My insulin resistance was being triggered and my pain was back. I figured out that if I ate anything more than 18 grams of carbs, and I only figured that out because I had to diminish the amount of carbs I was eating, and I figured out like whenever I hit around 18 or more, I was in trouble. So now I had to keep myself under 18 grams. Okay, sometimes we hear people talking about this idea that weight loss is not one size fit all, and that everyone cannot expect keto to work. But they're saying this from the perspective of we all need sugar and you should be eating carbohydrate. Vegetables are good for you. And that's why they're saying that keto can't work for everyone. I want us to look at this from a different perspective. As we learned from Dr. Lustig's video, every cell in your body uses sugar. And so because every cell in your body uses sugar, the impact of insulin resistance, so where you and I will live it, is different. So that's the first thing, is that I'm going to show insulin resistance my way. So for me, inflammation in my joints, versus somebody else who's going to show it their way, PCOS, versus somebody else who's going to show it their way, heart issues. We all will show our insulin resistance in different ways because we're different. Your body has a lot of options in how it's going to try to save you from the sugar. Bringing my sugar intake down from 350, 450, which is what I was eating before I started keto. And I know that because I verified by going on Google and putting the amounts of food that I was eating and finding the foods. And I figured out that I was eating 350 grams to 450 grams every day, and bringing that down to like 50, which is what I was actually doing at the beginning before I got my food calculator and started actually tracking every single thing every single day. But even getting it down to 50, I was seeing improvements. Then I got it down to 20. I saw even more improvements, and I brought it down to 20 because more that I researched and more that I understood I should be tracking, I found out that, the only way to really know you're at 20 is to put the numbers in the calculator. Wellness Warrior, I need you to understand that our bodies are amazing, and they will help you to improve if you give them the opportunity. So my body will do its best with whatever I give it. When I was eating too much sugar for years and years and years, right? Because at that point I had been eating too much sugar for 46 years. My body did everything it could to keep me as healthy as it could for as long as it could, until my joints were just too inflamed and I needed to figure myself out. Well, when I gave it healthy food, my body started to repair, and it started to show me that, hey, you can feel really good. And this is what's interesting about our body. It's not satisfied with, that's good enough. My body wanted me to be in the best possible health. And so when I got to the point where I'm down to 20 all the time, but my body knows it can do better, it showed me pain again. Your body adapts to whatever is happening, and then it pushes you to do even better. Now we see that as failure. Oh my goodness, I was doing so well and the keto diet seemed like it was working, but then it stopped working. Yes and no. Yes, I probably did get kicked out of ketosis during that period of time because my body needed me to get down to 18. But flip side of the coin, Wellness Warrior, is that my body did that because it knows that I could do even better. My body had to show me that I was still insulin resistant, first of all, but second of all, that if I'm going to get myself healthy, so no longer insulin resistant, I needed to work harder. And so that's what I did, right? I took it down to 18. Eventually, I took it down further than that, right? Because for those of you that watch the channel, you know that I eat carb maybe twice a week. When we allow a small amount of sugar back into our life, we feel it more because we've taken out so much of it that when we bring it back in and we're closer to baseline, we're not there yet, but we're closer to baseline, our body is able to tell us that, hey, Violet, that's too much. I don't want that much sugar coming in. Okay? Cut it out. And I am in the habit now of listening to my body. It's sort of like how if you had all the windows in your house open and it was cold outside, right? It's freezing and you had all the windows of your house open, the inside of your house would be cold, right? That's like leaving all the sugar to just come into your body, no matter, right? But if you were to close all the windows, of course, the temperature in your house could get back to normal, right? Your heater would work and it would heat your house up. And now the question is that I've closed all the windows. If I leave a crack window open, just like crack it open, right? What's going to happen? Is my temperature going to stay stable at that good temperature, or is it going to come down? It's going to come down. And I need you to understand, Wellness Warrior, that if I open this window with a piece of cake and that window with a cookie and this window with some ice cream, and now there's a bunch of windows open, my house is going to be much colder than if I allowed myself to only open the window for brief moments, right? Just enough to get what is healthy for me, right? What I've determined is healthy for me, right? Because I can't leave my house. I can open the door and close it behind me. And that moment of open and shut isn't going to cause the damage of having that window open for way, way, way too long. So this brings me to the second thing that happened to help me to understand that losing weight and being pain-free in my joints for a few weeks doesn't mean that my insulin resistance is gone. For a few weeks, for a few months, at this point, even for a few years, and I still know this to be true. I'm at goal weight now. And that doesn't mean my insulin resistance is gone, because I'm 5 years into living a healthy keto lifestyle. It takes 7 to 10 years to rebuild one of these, right? During the course of time that I've been living my healthy keto lifestyle, well, at the very beginning, as you just heard me say, I didn't really know what I was doing. And so I ate things accidentally that were too much in carb. So those were some days where some days I was doing good, some days I was over. Holes, cracks, windows slightly open, right? And then there were the times where I went out and decided to drink alcohol, window open. Or I decided to eat nuts, window open. There were occasions where I did things that, okay, so my second point, right? The second thing that helped me to understand that my body is not fully healed, and so therefore I need to understand I still have insulin resistance, is that I was answering a question for one of you wellness warriors. Actually, I'm going to link that video here for you to go watch it, about fiber. And in doing this research, I ate some nuts. And what happened, interestingly, that small amount of nuts that had a large amount of carb, so little package, a large amount of carb, and what happened to me, right? And you can watch the video to find out, but it wasn't good. I still have insulin resistance. My body reacted. Now, luckily for me, I didn't continue to eat the nuts because I already knew at that point that me and nuts, we struggle. But the point is that seemingly fine thing to do, right? Because on keto, nuts are fine, but we are all individuals. As quickly as your body tries to repair something and get you back to baseline, there's an adaptation that's happening, right? Like you do better, it does better. We get this new baseline level. If you introduce something that interferes with that process, it's going to take you back, and you're going to suffer. Like your body will suffer from you reintroducing the toxin of sugar, even if you think that it's been a month, a year, 2 years. Is that really long enough for your body to be back to baseline? Even in a brand new construction, your house is just built. Leaving that window open causes problems. It causes heat loss. It can cause, if you leave windows open in the winter, snow can come in and damage your floors. And like there is a risk that we are always taking if we allow toxins into our bodies because we think that it doesn't matter. We think that it's just this one time, or whatever the reason is, that will cause our keto diet not to work for us. You know, that experience of that little bit of carb from those nuts getting me caused me to think about Mikhaila Peterson. She talks openly on the internet about how she was diagnosed with all these autoimmune issues. And the only thing that helped her was actually going all meat. When she would let back the smallest amount of veg into her diet, her symptoms would come back. I think that we don't allow ourselves to see that our body is constantly trying to talk to us and tell us what's good for us and what's not good for us. And we try to get past bloating. We try to get past headaches. We try to get past pain. We try to, tolerate foods that the question is, why are we trying to tolerate them? It's very rare, although I've heard of it, but it's very rare that I hear people having to try to tolerate meat, tolerate fish, and tolerate eggs beyond flavor. I'm talking about physical reaction to these foods. I'm not talking about taste of them. It's rare to hear that. And yet if we say that we're not eating them, nobody has a problem with it. Like if you don't eat meat, oh, that's fine, right? You're saving the animals. Don't eat fish, that's fine. But if you don't eat veg, which many people have problems with, something is wrong with us. I want you to think about the fact that that doesn't make sense. The reality is keto stopped working for me because I was eating more carbohydrates than my body could manage. And as soon as I realized that and brought my carb count down to an amount that my body could manage, it resumed doing well for me. I've been at goal weight now for more than 4 years, 4.5 years. That's the longest that I've ever been able to keep weight off since I gained weight back in my 30s. I've never been able to keep it off this long. Why? Because I'm still eating, and I'm eating healthy, and I'm eating enough. And as a matter of fact, I say enough. Most people who would see what I eat are shocked that I'm able to eat that much and stay at goal. We are individuals, and that means that you need to listen to your body when it's telling you that whatever you're eating isn't working, and react swiftly to the data that your body's giving you, which means that it's your job to know what causes your insulin resistance to show itself, right? You need to know what your carb number is. I thought it was 20. It's 18 for me. And I don't even know if it's still 18. I don't dare go to a number higher than 10 because I don't want to find out if it's 11, because it doesn't feel good when I get to that number. I want you to know what your carb number is. What's frustrating to me is that testing for insulin resistance would lead most people with any kind of metabolic issue to have it solved if doctors would test for it and then tell you, oh, the solution is to eat a healthy keto or carnivore diet. But they won't do that. There's no money in that. The same way they push us to eat fiber to solve constipation issues unnecessarily. I made a video about that you can watch right there. All that fruit is actually harming your health. So click on the link. I'm going to meet you over there.